Locho sampo pa gyu trashi pa tuche tempe trinle yarngoda Pelge drolo zampe zebrache Palden lame shabla solvade Omo a guru vajradara sumatimo nishasane kar Uta vardanya shri bhadra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Om Guru Vajra Dara Sumatimo Nishasane Karm Uta vardanya shri bhadra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Om Guru Vajra Dara Sumatimo Nishasane Karm Uta vardanya shri bhadra varsa manya sarvasi Om Guru Vajra Dara Sumatimo Nishasane Karm Uta vardanya shri bhadra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Om Guru Vajra Dara Sumatimo Nishasane Karm Uta vardanya shri bhadra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Om Guru Vajra Dar Sumatimo Nishas Uta vardanya shri bhadra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Pakyuke kudandagi lo, pakyuke sundandagi nga, pakyuke tukdandagi yi, tenyerme chiktu jingi lo. Makyuke kudandagi lo, makyuke sundandagi nga, makyuke tukdandagi yi, Tenyerme chikto jingelo Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Svoha Sangye Chodan Tsoge Chonamla Chancho pardo dani kyapso chin Dagi jinso gibe sonamgi Drula pinchira sangye druparasho Sangye chodan tsogi chonamla Chancho pardo dani kyapso chi Dagi jinso gibe sonamgi Drula pinchira sangye druparasho Sangye chodan tsogi chonamla Chancho pardo dani kyapso chi Dagi jinso gibe sonamgi Drola pinchira sangye druparasho In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge unto enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. So, in this yesterday, we were looking at the first point in which it says, Tambungundro Talalap, first train in the preliminaries, the first of the 7 points of mind training. And we saw that to train in the preliminaries, it means to generate an inner state of love towards oneself, which means to generate this inner deep determination to get out of the cycle of suffering, to get out of samsara, which means like having a strong determination to develop one's own qualities, to eliminate one's own defilements as the main priority. We still can take care of the things of this life. We have a body, we live in a society, we need to take care of all the responsibilities and everything that we have in this life, okay, but that's not the main priority. The ultimate priority is to develop one's own qualities such as wisdom and love and stability and joy and so on, and eliminate our defilements such as ignorance, hatred, aversion, and so on. So, this is the essence of when we say to develop the preliminaries, okay? Then together within the preliminaries, there is the part of taking refuge, there is the law of karma, and other things also which are inside of it. As we said yesterday, to go into details on the preliminaries, if we go into details from now, maybe we can conclude it by this next summer. So I think because we have planned during these days to see the 7 points, better we move to the second. Otherwise, we would just remain in the first, which is okay also. There is nothing wrong in that. But we choose to go through all the 7. So we have seen the essential points of the first part, which is to train in the preliminaries, which means the preciousness of this life, the certainty of death, law of karma. There's the part also of taking refuge, and then so developing this strong intention to wish to practice the Dharma. That's the essence. That's the most important part of developing these preliminaries, which is like developing renunciation, which means to renounce the suffering and to renounce the causes of suffering. That's basically what we need to do. Okay, so we'll go now to the second point. I was thinking about making an introduction, but actually better not, because what we need to say, everything is inside also directly the point. So we go directly to the second of the 7 points. Okay. So we enter now the second point from the 7 points mind training, which is says Tambong undro thala lap. The actual practice training. No, sorry, not Tambong undro thala lap. The next part is Nibang Moshe Janjuki Sim Jonala Tunda Majoki Sim Jonsu Dakundo Janjuki Sim Jonsu Nis. Okay. The actual practice training in the awakening mind. The actual practice, the main practice that we need to do, the central part of this training, is to train ourselves in love and wisdom. Okay? So, the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta. Bodhi means enlightenment, awaken. Chitta means mind. So the mind of enlightenment, which doesn't mean the mind that have already reached enlightenment. It means we develop bodhicitta. It's the mind that goes towards enlightenment. This is the mind that we are supposed to develop here. And at the same time, we train ourselves within bodhicitta to develop the actual mind of enlightenment. So it has both meanings. When we say about bodhicitta, it has both meanings. It has the meaning of the mind of enlightenment, of the mind of the awakening mind, in the sense of the mind that goes to enlightenment, the mind that is directed towards enlightenment, and it also has the meaning that the mind that is training to develop enlightenment. Okay? So, in this part, we have basically, in order to develop the state of Buddhahood, we need to develop 2 parts, which is the development of wisdom and the development of love and compassion, which are called normally absolute bodhicitta, wisdom, and relative bodhicitta, compassion. That's, as we have here in the text, how to train in the ultimate awakening mind and how to train in the conventional awakening mind. So if we take all Buddha's teachings and the whole path to enlightenment and we condense it, we can condense into 2 points: developing love and developing wisdom. That's the main essence of everything that we need to do. Okay? So the first point is a preparation to develop love and wisdom, and the ones that come after, the third, from the point number 3 to 7, are a support to develop love and wisdom. But the actual practice is to train ourselves in developing love and wisdom. And actually the word training is a very important word here, because we need to understand the bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, is not something that comes out of the blue. Suddenly we get it. Or we go to ask for special blessings, and one day suddenly we are able to receive from Buddha, we develop bodhicitta. It's something that we need to train ourselves into. It's like actual training, repeating. And here he's going to show us how can we train ourselves. How to train ourselves into developing love and compassion, or relative bodhicitta. How to train ourselves into developing wisdom, ultimate bodhicitta. So, the actual concept of training is a very important concept, because it shows that we can do it, but it depends on our own effort, on our own constancy. It depends on our own path of training. It's not something that comes out of nothing. It's something that comes out of effort and constancy in this way. Okay? So, based on this, we have here the order, and then this text which we are reading, it was edited by Papunka Rinpoche, the guru of Kyabche Trichan Dorje Chang, and it says, this part, actually, the part that we can see that are in bold letters, the part that we see that are in italic, and the part that are on brackets, all of these were added by Papunka Rinpoche. They are not part of the original text. The original text, it's only the part that is written in the normal letters here, okay? So, which in the next page starts, banish the one to blame for everything. This is part of the original text. So here it says, according to most of the older records, the training of the ultimate awakening mind is dealt with first, which means at the time of Papunka Rinpoche, in the beginning of the 20th century, there were many versions of the 7-point mind training. Remember that it was written on the 11th century, this text. So in this next 9 centuries in Tibet, more or less, what happened is that many versions of this text came about. They were very similar, but some small differences were there. And so at that time, some disciples asked Papunka Rinpoche, as one of the greatest masters of his time, to make one version, which was a definitive version in our tradition of the 7-point mind training text. So he took all the texts that he knew, the versions, all the commentaries, and he made one version out of it. And here, what happens is that, according to the old records, the older versions, before Lama Tsongkhapa time, the training of ultimate awakening mind, the training of wisdom, is done first, and then secondly is done the training of relative bodhicitta or love and compassion. However, according to our own tradition, following the gentle protectorate Tsongkhapa, as contained in such works as Mind Training Like Rays of the Sun, which was written by Horton Namkapel, the disciple of Lama Tsongkhapa, Ornament for Losang's Thought by Yonzin Yeshe Gyaltsen, and Essential Nectar and Lojong Nyingpo, and the other one, which is Kutsan Roots Words, the order is reversed for special reasons. First is relative bodhicitta, then absolute bodhicitta. So why is that? One important thing that we always need to take into consideration whenever we read any book actually or any teaching is that a teaching is given in accordance to the abilities of those that are receiving this teaching. So when we study normally the old texts and we go a little bit more into details about it, whenever we study the Dharma text, one of the questions that we put in the beginning is, to whom was it taught? In Tibetan we call Chetu Chawe Ducha. Who was the disciple, the specific disciple to whom this was taught? This is something that is important for us to understand. Because according to whom it was taught, it was adapted in a way or another. Okay? So generally speaking, it is said there to be 2 main types of disciples. Okay? In the Tantra, we have 4 types of disciples. In the General Sutra and General Teachings, we have 2 types of disciples. So, the 2 types of disciples are divided into what we call the higher intellectual and the lower intellectual disciples. Okay? The disciples with a higher intellectual capacity are those that, before believing in anything, they must understand, and they have the ability to understand. Now, maybe there are some of us that we don't want to believe in anything before understanding, but we also don't have the ability to understand. So this is not the kind of higher disciples, okay? Higher intellectual ability. The lower intellectual ability disciples are those that actually, first they believe, and then after slowly they understand. Basically, it's because not having the ability right away to understand everything. First they believe because someone to whom they trust is telling them, then slowly they understand. So for example here, taking refuge, or specific case, the mind of enlightenment. Why would I want to reach enlightenment if I don't know what enlightenment is? Okay. So there are only two possibilities. Or first I understand what is enlightenment, and then I wish to reach enlightenment. Or I believe and I trust someone that tells me that I really need to reach enlightenment. And because I trust that person, I follow his advices and I wish to enlightenment. Why, I don't know, but I really wish for it. Yes, I know more or less why I need to reach enlightenment, but I even don't know very clearly what is enlightenment. I don't have a very clear idea of it. Okay. So in the first case, in order for us to understand what is enlightenment, it is not possible to understand what is enlightenment without having a clear understanding of emptiness, of the correct view of reality. Because the state of Buddhahood is the state beyond ignorance, which is free from the dual mind of duality, in which perceives each and every phenomena in its own true nature. Okay? But imagine that before even believing in Buddha, we need to understand that. For most of us, it would be say, okay, that's too difficult. Okay? But there is no other way to understand truly what is a Buddha. I'm not saying realize, I'm just saying to understand what is a Buddha without first understanding the true nature of reality and how ignorance is the cause of all suffering and how it's possible to eliminate ignorance, so understand one's own potential of enlightenment and at the same time understand the nature of one's own mind and understand what it means to eliminate ignorance and what it means to eliminate the imprints of ignorance. So once we understand this, then we can know, wow, this is the mind of enlightenment. I want it. Otherwise, the other way is that we have our gurus to whom we have full trust because everything that they have shown us up to now that we could check, we saw it as truth. We have trust in them, and so we say, okay, they tell us that the best thing is to reach enlightenment, so we follow. And then slowly, as we follow, slowly, we have a tendency to understand more and more. Okay? So I believe the best way is a sort of a middle way between the two for us nowadays. Okay? But the point is that Lama Tsongkhapa was saying that on his time, which is more or less 600 years ago, he was stating that most of the disciples that he had, they were lower capacity disciples. Okay? I include myself in the lower capacity one. And I believe for most of us it's the same. Okay? Because if we need first to realize emptiness before taking refuge or doing anything else, not realize, understand at least, it's not an easy task. Especially because when we talk about realizing emptiness, and here, that's why when we have the two trainings, the original text was taught to the disciples with a higher intellectual capacity. That's why first there is the training of wisdom, and then second there is the training on love and compassion, relative bodhicitta. But one of the issues is that the training on absolute bodhicitta is not just to understand the lack of inherent existence that we will look after what it means tomorrow maybe. It's not just the understanding of emptiness, which is difficult but not so difficult. It's possible quite easily. But the real task that we need to train on absolute bodhicitta here is to train ourselves to change our paradigm. And that's another issue. Okay? To change truly our paradigm, that takes effort. It takes time. It's not something obvious at all. So, if we just go directly to change our paradigm on wisdom, and at a certain point we say, that's too difficult, it's not worth the effort. We can say, that's too much. So, what is there to give us the strength to make such paradigm change? Love and compassion. So by developing first love and compassion, this gives us the strength to put into practice wisdom and to change our paradigm. Otherwise, it's too difficult, for most of us. So, there are different reasons why we start with compassion. One of the reasons, love and compassion. One of the reasons is because we are not ready, most of us, to start by realizing emptiness. Second, we need bodhicitta to give us the strength based on love and compassion in order for us truly then to develop wisdom and to dedicate ourselves to change our own paradigm. Okay? So we start first by training in the relative bodhicitta, Kunsob Chanchu Gisem, and then after we go the training on absolute bodhicitta, Tundam Chanchu Gisem. Okay? And from the 7 points mind training, the first one is a preparation, and then from the 3rd to the 7th, it is actually in support of the 2nd. So the main part of the practice is this central part, which is training ourselves in relative bodhicitta, training ourselves in absolute bodhicitta. That's the essential main part of the practice. Okay? Bene. So if you look in the text, in page 39, we have point A, how to train in ultimate awakening mind. Point B, how to train in the conventional awakening mind. Then we go to the next page, we have point B and then point A. The order is inverted. Why the order is inverted? Because the original text is A and B, but we will train ourselves B and A. Okay? So if someone looks and say, oh, why the B is first? There is a mistake. No, there is no mistake. This is because we have follow both things here. The original text order, but then the order of our own training according to our own tradition. Okay? So, let's start then with the training, with the actual training. We need to remember that this text is not a text of explanation, is not a text of teaching, of explaining things. It is actually a text for, like to remember us of the process. It's like an essence of what we need to do. Okay? So I will read the first part of the training, and it says, Lelen tamche chigla da kun la karin chewa gon tonle nibo pelmar jan lo kom lempe koring rangnet sam. Teni lung la kyombar cha yulsum tuksum getzatsun jegi menga durde pa. Tela drempa kuwer chir chulam kundu tsigi jang. Banish the one to blame for everything. Meditate on the great kindness of all beings. Practice a combination of giving and taking. Giving and taking should be practiced alternately, and you should begin by taking from yourself. This too should be made to ride on the breath. Concerning the 3 objects, 3 poisons, and 3 virtues, the instruction to be followed, in short, is to be mindful in the practice in general, by taking these words to heart in all activities. If we know the meaning, it's clear. Otherwise, it's really not easy to understand what it means, right? Because it's here to remember. Every line has a lot of meaning inside. So let's start with the first line. It says, Lelen tamche chikla da. Banish the one to blame for everything. Who's the one to blame for everything? Who's the one to blame for every misfortune and for every suffering and for everything that like not positive that we experience? Who's the one to blame for everything? Other people? Not really. Okay, that's what we do normally, right? But truly, who's the one to blame for everything? The one to blame for everything is our own selfishness. Okay? Let's try to understand how this works. Because normally, whenever we have a moment that we feel unhappy or when we have a moment of suffering and anything, what is our natural attitude? Why am I suffering? Because the world is not as it's supposed to be. It's too hot, it's too cold, it's raining, because this person is acting like this, that person is acting like that, my salary is not good enough, I don't have enough time for vacation, or because I am having pain and I should not have pain, or whatever other reasons, okay? But I am not the one to blame for us, sure, because if it was for me, I would be happy. Right? Do we want to be happy? So, if it was only for us, everything would be perfect. But why we suffer? Because the world is terrible. Because things are not as they are supposed to be. That's how we act. Now let's check how things are. According to Buddha's teachings, the one to blame for everything is our own selfishness. It's not the self, it's not the ego. Because we do have a self, we do have an ego, we do exist, and we are not the one to blame for everything. The one to blame for everything, for all our sufferings, is our own attitude of selfishness, which is the obsession to self-gratification. Is putting ourselves in the center of the universe. Is being ourselves the center of everything. Like we put ourselves like we relate to each and every circumstance, to each and every situation through ourselves. We're not able to see the other independently of ourselves. Okay. So let's see a little bit how this works. Normally, whenever we are in front of any situation, we have the tendency to divide the situation into 3 different categories, okay, which multiply by 3 and make a total of 9. Okay, so what are these? So, first of all, it goes like this. We have situations in which whenever we see something or we enter in contact with someone that gives us pleasure, it becomes our friend. Whenever something or someone enter in contact with its give pleasure to our friends, in other words, when someone is beneficial, brings benefit to us, becomes our friend. When someone brings benefit to our friend, becomes our friend. And when someone harms our enemy, becomes our friend. Okay? So the first 3 categories, which is not only to people, is towards situations, is towards material objects, is towards people, towards anything that we enter in contact with. If we see that object of contact as something that is beneficial to us, it's our friend. If it's beneficial to our friend, it's our friend. If it's harmful towards our enemy, it's our friend. Okay. Then the next 3 are, if it's harmful towards us, it's our enemy. If it's harming our friends, it's our enemy. And if it's benefiting our enemy, it's our enemy. In other words, if it's benefiting our enemy, it's our enemy. The friend of my enemy is my enemy. Okay? Then there are those that are not helping or benefiting my friend, my enemy, or those to whom I am indifferent. And I am indifferent towards them. Okay? So, if we look on this, we relate constantly to each and everything based on this division. Okay? We relate to each and everything based on these 9 categories. So how does it work? In the moment that I have an attitude of towards my friends, what attitude I have? Attraction, aversion, or indifference? Attraction. So towards the friends, I have attraction. Towards the enemies, I have aversion. Towards the indifferent ones, indifference. Okay? So, from attraction, what we develop? Attachment, desire. From aversion, aggression, hatred, anger, and so on. And from all of this, it comes also envy, jealousy, pride, miserliness. All of this is coming out of this. Okay? So, basically, what happens is that the strongest is the attachment I have towards a friend. And friend, I don't mean the real meaning of friend, no? Because the true meaning of friend is the one that loves us. That's a friend, okay? But I'm talking about any object that we see as an object of attraction. the stronger is the attachment I have towards an object of attraction, the stronger is going to be the suffering the day I need to separate from that object of attachment, or the day the object changes, or the day there is anything that is a threat for me having that object of attachment, I generate aversion towards it also. The stronger is the desire that I have towards an object of attraction, the stronger is the suffering because I cannot get the object of desire. The stronger is the aversion towards an enemy, the stronger is the suffering when I need to meet this enemy and enter in contact with him. Okay? It's like if I have an object of attraction which is my water, and I'm able to get my water and I have a lot of attachment towards my water, so this is my water. Then suddenly there is someone that comes nearby that is thirsty. And this person is very thirsty, but at the same time that the person is very thirsty, there is no other water around other than mine. The person is not doing anything against me, he's just showing that he's thirsty. But when he's thirsty, and the only water around is my water, what attitude I have towards that person? Attraction, aversion, or indifference? Most probably I have aversion, and because this is my water, and then I will not share it with anyone. Okay? So, and in the moment that you start coming near, I already want to find a way how to put you far. So what happens is that the stronger is my attachment, the stronger will be my aversion, inevitably. Because sooner or later we'll enter in contact with something or someone that is a threat towards our own object of attraction. No. According to Shantideva in the Bodhisattva Charavatara, he makes an example in here which he says, if comes a stick and hit your arm, who's the one to blame for the pain? What we would say normally? The person hitting, right? There are two moments in which he makes this example. One moment when talking about patience in which he's saying, yeah, if you see the one hitting your arm, or do you get angry with the stick? No. You get angry with the hand? No, you get angry with the person hitting you. Because he's the real cause. But no, he's not the real cause. The real cause is the anger and the ignorance of the person hitting you. So if you need to get angry to anything, it's not towards the person, but towards the anger of the person. Otherwise, you need to get angry with the stick. Okay? But this is another subject. The point I wanted to bring, another example he makes. If someone comes and hits you with the stick, who's to blame for the pain? The stick? If the stick alone can create the pain? No. If the stick goes like this, no pain. Because no arm. What creates the pain is in part there is the stick hitting, in part there is the arm there. If the arm was not there, there would be no pain. So whenever there is a situation of suffering, we need to understand that there are two aspects. One aspect is the situation as we see it around us. The person that is saying this, the other person that is doing that, the problem of the environment or the weather or our health or whatever, okay? The other part is the way how we deal with it, how we relate to that object. And this is the arm there, okay? Depending on the way how I relate, this will create the result of the experience that I will have in front of that situation. Okay? So, through selfishness, what we do? We put ourselves in the center of the universe and we divide everything that we relate to as friends, enemies, and indifferent. Are they permanent, the friends and enemies? Is a friend always friend? What happens when a friend suddenly is not so kind as he used to be before, is not bringing so much benefit to us as used to bring before? Is a friend as before? Not so much. And what happens when the friend suddenly starts to harm us? Or we see as the friend is harming us, it's the same. What happens to the friend? Becomes enemy. So, what makes a person to be a friend or to be an enemy? How we relate to that person is based on us. the same person with the same attitude is friend of one and enemy of another. Is there anyone that is the enemy of everyone or the friend of everyone? No, never. It's friend of one and enemy of another. Why? Because we relate in a different way, each one of us. Okay, towards the same attitude. For me it's good, so it's my friend. For him it's harmful, so it's his enemy. So, the only thing that makes this distinction between friends and enemy, which is from which comes the attitude of attraction and aversion, from which comes anger and attachment and desire and insatisfaction, and all of this is coming from where? From selfishness. On top of that, we have 3 ways of relating to all the 9 objects. Okay? It doesn't matter if it's a friend, it doesn't matter if it's an enemy, or if it's an indifferent person, we have 3 ways of relating to them. Sometimes we're able to go beyond these 3 ways, but very often we are within these 3 ways, okay? Are the following. It doesn't matter who we have in front of us, if it's a friend, an enemy, or an indifferent person, okay? If the other person has something less than us, is less beautiful, less powerful, less rich, less intelligent, less humble, less spiritual, whatever, we feel superior. So whenever we see the other one as being less something, we put ourselves with arrogance. Okay? Even we can have arrogance because we think we are superior to the other person because we think that we are more humble than him. It happens, huh? It's one of the worst forms of arrogance is the spiritual arrogance also, huh? I am superior to you because I am more spiritual developed than you. You know, one time I heard a beautiful phrase by one Italian actor, and he was saying, humbleness is one of the most difficult qualities to develop because it's enough for you to think you are humble not to be anymore. No? In the moment, I am the humble one, then you are not anymore, finished. No? But anyhow, the point here is that in relation to those that are less something, we relate with arrogance. We feel that we are superior. Okay? In relation to those that are equal to us, how do we relate? Competition. We compete with them. We need to show that we are better, that we have more, that we are more intelligent, that we are a better practitioner, that we receive more love, that we are more near to the other, that we this and that. We need to show ourselves. And then, when there is someone that has more than us, how do you relate with? Envy. This case is envy. I get aversion towards you because you have what I don't have. So, conclusion, we never relax. Conclusion is we are always there in conflict, because to be arrogant is not nice. Because when we act with arrogance towards the other, we are comparing and we need to protect our position. When we need to compete again, we need to put effort on that. When there is someone that is envy again, we need to want to fight again. We never relaxed really, It's too tiring. And where is all this coming from? Our selfishness. This obsession with self-gratification, which brings us this constant need of comparing ourselves with others. No? It's like, it's constant, like making a simple example. We're walking in a road. And then on the other side come 3 people walking in our direction. Okay? One person we see as beautiful, the other person we see as ugly, the other person is no taste, like no ugly or beautiful, nothing is like indifferent, okay? Do we react internally in the same way towards the three person, or we have a different attitude towards each one? We never met any one of them. According to the way how they are dressed, if one of them have a mala, maybe we have more attraction to one that have a mala, because we connect to ourselves. No? So, oh look, that guy is a bit better, and then we create some nicer connection and we have more attraction towards that person. Just according to the way you take the same person, dress the same person in three different ways, you have three different attitudes toward that person because of the stereotypes that we create. We don't know the person. And there we are judging, and there we are comparing, and there we are with attraction and aversion because of what? Our selfishness. And finally, what is this creating? Attraction, aversion, indifference. Remember that indifference is a form of violence. Okay. One of the worst ways to act towards a person is to be indifferent towards that person's suffering. So, finally, we spend a great deal of our life constantly in the middle of all this game of attraction, of aversion, of arrogance, of competition, of envy. It's really, really tiring. Try to do one thing. Try to think, when was the last time that you suffered where the I and the my had nothing to do with that suffering? Can you find a time when we suffered and the I and the my had nothing to do with our suffering? Can we find that? Not. Truly not. So, where is our suffering coming from? It's coming from our defilements, which manifest and then create negative karma, and then we need to get the results of this negative karma, and it's coming from anger and jealousy and pride and miserliness and fear and all of this. Where is all of this coming from? Attraction and aversion. And it's coming from what? The obsession with self-gratification. So, Lelentamche Chiglada, banish the one to blame for everything. How do we practice that? Whenever we get a sensation of suffering, whenever there is something that we are uncomfortable, anything, we ask ourselves, why am I suffering? First answer, spontaneous answer, not conceptual. Because this thing happened, that happened, because it's cold, because it's hot, because it's this, because it's that, and so on. Why do I suffer with that? Because I am obsessed with my self-gratification. If we really go to look deeply, that's where everything is actually coming from. Okay? So the conclusion is that selfishly speaking, it's better to be altruistic. Thinking about our own happiness, thinking about our own well-being, selfishness is creating our own suffering. So, this is something that it's very important for us to understand. I know it's not easy. It's like we may ask ourselves, but how can I do without selfishness? Who's going to think about me? If I am not the one thinking about my needs, who's going to think about my needs? Like there is this text that we read some years ago, the discussion between wisdom and ignorance, Daksin Shaktep, by Panchen Lobsang Chokyi Gyaltsen. And there is the part in which wisdom is saying to ignorance, in this case ignorance is selfishness, and saying, go away, you are the one that is harming the person, And then selfishness answers back and say, really, you want to send me away? I am the one that always cared for the person. I am the one that always did everything for the person. If it was not for me, he would not be there. You would not be even practicing the Dharma if it was not for me. Which is true. So the problem is that we have this dual sort of relation in which, without thinking of ourselves, we see no way how to take care of ourselves. But we see at the same time that that obsession with ourselves is the one that is creating our suffering. So how to do? The answer is that we don't need to eliminate ourselves to eliminate our selfishness. We need to take that same attitude of obsession that we have towards our own self, of self-gratification, and we just need to expand it. We need to take that strong wish that I want to be happy, and we don't need to take away from ourselves this wish to be happy. We just need to expand it towards others and value others as we value ourselves. I don't know if it's clear, this. It's not like taking away our own need of happiness, taking away our own needs, eliminating the caring for ourselves, and then taking care of others. No, we need to go beyond this duality. It's taking that attitude of self-gratification, of obsession with our own selves, that strong wish to be happy that we have and not to suffer to ourselves, and we need simply to open it and extend it and expand it towards others. And this does not exclude ourselves. Okay? That's the way how we can go through it. Otherwise, if we try to eliminate selfishness by not thinking anymore about ourselves, then we are on the wrong way. And then we enter into this very difficult contradiction in which it is like, oh, how can I eliminate my selfishness, and then who's going to take care of me? Nobody thinks about me. I need to think also about myself. Where is loving myself? And then we enter into this contradiction. At no point we need to eliminate the love for ourselves. We need to eliminate ourselves from the whole story. The only thing that we need to do is to value others as we love ourselves. So we take that same attitude of our own selfishness, and it's like, how to say? Imagine the following. Now we are in the center, and we see everything from outside to the center, right? So we see everything as in relation to the I. The only thing that we need to do is to put ourselves outside of the center and then invert it. I don't know if it's clear as an idea, as an image. Now we are in the center, okay? And everything is around of us. Okay? In the moment that you take what is in the center and you do like this, okay, you are outside together with the others, but the attitude is always the same. Okay? So the meaning is that we don't need to change the attitude itself. This obsession with happiness and not suffering, it's fine. We just need to understand that my happiness goes together with the happiness of others, and my suffering goes together with the suffering of others. And it's not possible to be happy myself independently of the happiness of others. It's not possible to eliminate my suffering without taking care of the suffering of others. So, we take the same obsession and then we simply expand that same attitude. We don't need to take something, we already have the right attitude. We just need to redirect it. That's how to transform this. Okay? Well, we are already entering into the next part. This first line here is just saying, remember and recognize that the selfishness is the main cause of everything. And when do we start actually banishing our own selfishness? When we start not acting out of selfishness. So I have the natural reaction, friend, enemy, indifferent, arrogance, competition, envy. I have this natural reaction, but then I redirect myself and I do not speak out of it, I do not act out of it. So artificially, I act in a different way. That's how slowly I start not to follow that selfish attitude also. And then there is the whole training how to eliminate selfishness, which comes in the next lines. But first we need to understand, because if we do not see who is the one to blame for everything, if we do not recognize truly where is the enemy, how can we eliminate the enemy if we don't know who he is? the example that is given is that if we don't know where is the target, even though we know very well how to take the arrow, the bow and the arrow, and we know very well how to throw an arrow, and we have perfect, pointing, and we can place the arrow exactly where we want, if we don't know where is the target, it's useless. So where is the target is selfishness. This is the first step, to recognize that selfishness is the one that is truly creating all our troubles. Okay? Bene. Yes. Anytime that you experience suffering, it's because of selfishness that you are suffering. So, the next line says, meditate on the great kindness of all beings. Meditate doesn't mean necessarily sit in silence and do meditation. Meditate here, it means most of all, familiarize yourself with the great kindness of all beings. Okay? Familiarize yourself with the kindness of everyone. In order, before to reach the fact of familiarizing ourselves with the kindness of others, we need first to generate equanimity. And to generate equanimity, it means that first of all, what we need to do is to see that truly there is no difference between us and others. First thing, we need to be able to see others before being able to love them. Okay? So, as Shantideva says in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, very clearly, he says, why? Something like this. In the moment that everyone around me wishes for happiness in the same way as I wish, what do I have so special that my happiness is more important than theirs? Why am I so special that I only act to look for my own happiness? In the moment that everyone around me, all sentient beings, wish to be free from suffering, what do I have so special that I only look to eliminate my own suffering? The true answer is nothing. When we look to others, and this comes from a very simple principle before that, It is when we see someone else that have a similar difficulty that we have, let's say we are sick, and we see someone that have the same sickness as us. Do we connect with the person? No. Or let's say I have a problem, whatever problem, I don't have the money for this, or I have some people are criticizing me, or whatever difficulty I have a problem, I have a sickness, and then suddenly I have a rare sickness or whatever, and suddenly I meet a person that have the same sickness. Naturally, I create some connection. I get more near to that person. Okay? So, let's say that we go to the doctor. Our doctor is Buddha. And we say, oh, Buddha, I am not well. Then Buddha says, let's see, what are your symptoms? And then we say to Buddha, I have a lot of unsatisfaction. I am never truly happy. It doesn't matter what I do. Finally, I am always in conflict with this and that, and I am not really happy, and then I get angry, and then there is jealousy, and then I am suffering, and the world is not as it's supposed to be, and because of this and that, blah, 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 our common things. So we go and we complain to Buddha of our own problems. Then Buddha looked to us and said, you are sick. So please, what's my sickness? Okay, diagnosis. The name of your sickness is called selfishness, and it's created by the virus of ignorance. But there is a thing. It's an epidemic. You're not the only one. No. So when we see ourselves truly as being sick out of selfishness, created by ignorance, then we look to someone else. Anyone that we look around us, it's in the same situation as we are. The other person wishes to be happy as I wish to be happy. The other person wishes to be free from suffering as I wish to be free from suffering. No difference whatsoever. And the other person is doing everything he or she is doing out of his or her selfishness or ignorance, just as I do. So truly, what is the difference between me and the other? I have dark hair, you have blonde hair. One is taller, the other is shorter. What's the real difference between us? When we all are exactly in the same situation, The only difference, if we take the metaphor of the sickness, is like when I am well and you are bad, suffering, we have the same sickness. The only difference is that I am in the moment in which the symptom is not manifesting, you are in the moment in which the symptom is manifesting. That's the only difference. It's just a time difference, but it's the same. It's like when a young person go and look to an older person and feel superior because I am young, What's the only difference between a young body and an old body? Time basis. So the old can say to the young, don't worry, you will get there. If you can get there, So what happened is that truly there is no difference. And this equanimity, it's fundamental for us to develop. We will never be able to develop love towards others if we do not develop first this equanimity. If we do not feel first the connection, and we feel I am suffering because of this sickness of selfishness, which is created from the ignorance of seeing myself as being independent of everything else and everything independent of myself. But the others are exactly in the same condition as me. So, as we see this, we connect to others. No, this is equanimity. When we do the 4 limitless or the 7 limitless prayers, there's the part in which you say, may all beings dwell in equanimity and affected by attraction to dear ones and aversion to others. In this case, it's a different type of equanimity. When we do this prayer, it's the equanimity where we wish others to live in equanimity without attraction and aversion. In this case here, when we do before developing love and compassion, before training on relative bodhicitta, the equanimity is seeing that there is no difference between ourselves and others. This is the equanimity that we need to develop here. And in this form of equanimity, we truly feel that we are in the same boat, we are in the same situation. There is no difference between us and others. And it doesn't matter who we see. Even the little bug that we see, The little animal, the little bug, does the little bug want to be happy? Yes. Why the bug goes to the sun and it goes away of the heat? Because the bug wants to be happy. Does the bug try to avoid suffering? Yes. Is the bug selfish? Looks like. Just as me. The only difference is I am in a moment in which I am a human body and he's in a moment where he has a bug body. Like there is this saying in Italian, I don't know how it's in English, but it says, the opportunity makes the thief. Which means, depending on the situation in which we are, we act differently, So I look someone acting in a way which I think deplorable, oh, that's so bad the way the person is acting. But let me see what happens if I am in a position where I have no food, where I need to protect my own life, where I am under severe forms of violence since my childhood, and so on and so on. I want to see how I would react in that situation, Most probably not so differently. So truly, what's the difference between us and others? Not much. So once we truly understand and we feel that there is no real difference between ourselves and others, then we start to connect with others. And it takes away all these barriers that we have between us, Somehow we can relax on that. And then from this comes here when it says, meditate on the great kindness of all beings. Because once we see there is no difference between us and others, as we all suffer, we all want to be happy, and we are all sick from the same sicknesses of selfishness. And we deeply want to get out of selfishness, out of our own suffering. which is the only way that we have to eliminate our suffering by eliminating our selfishness? Loving others. Cherishing others, by loving others. There is no other way to eliminate our own suffering than eliminating our selfishness and by eliminating our ignorance. And the way to eliminate our selfishness is to cherish others as we cherish ourselves. Is to love others. And it's only possible to love others if others exist. So they are so kind to me. Because it's only through other beings that I can develop my own love and compassion, and I can eliminate my own selfishness. So who gives me the opportunity to eliminate my selfishness, to cure myself from this terrible disease? Who gives me this opportunity? Other beings. It is said that if we put in a scale all the Buddhas, our gurus and all the Buddhas, and on the other scale we put all the sentient beings, which one is more important on our path to enlightenment? They have the exact same weight. So the gratitude that we should have and the respect that we should have towards our gurus and the Buddhas and all the holy beings and towards sentient beings is exactly the same. No different. Because our gurus and the Buddhas shows us the path and guide us through the path. But I can never develop love and compassion if there is no one to love. So you allow me to love you, and this is already something so incredible. So the fact that we are in the same circumstance, and you allow me to develop this sincere wish to help others and to eliminate my own selfishness. You are the one that allows me to do that. You mean sentient beings. And who are sentient beings where we should start training this equanimity and this gratitude? Our friends, our enemies, our family members, the people that we work with, those that we like and those that we don't like, the people that we relate on our daily basis. That's where we need to start. It's useless to say, I love every sentient being with exception of that few ones that I don't like so much, Where we start practicing. First, the first level where we practice equanimity and cherishing others, love and compassion, is friends, family, working people, people that we relate in our daily basis. This is the people where we need to relate. All the sentient beings which are connected to us on our daily basis, our small world. From that we can expand to all the rest, We need to be careful not to remain, when we practice equanimity and loving kindness and so on, we need to be careful not to remain in an idealized idea of all sentient beings and disconnected from the actual people and beings with whom we connect in our daily basis, Otherwise, there we are, all sentient beings, so important. And then when we meet the person we don't like, we treat badly and we forget about that he's also a sentient being. A friend of mine used to make a joke. And he used to say, may all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. Let's remember that my boss is not sentient. Okay. That's what we do very often somehow, So we need to put everyone within it and start from equanimity and then develop gratitude. When we are able truly to see there is no difference between us and others, we are all in the same situation. And then actually we open our heart and we see how grateful every sentient being is to us. In many levels. Even from the very practical level, everything we have, we depend on others. And even our spiritual path, we depend on others. So we are so grateful towards them because they allow us to grow spiritually and to exit this ocean of samsara. It's the sentient beings that allow us to do that. Then from this, we are already very near to develop bodhicitta and great love. But we need to go through this step. There is even one debate which says, what will happen when the last sentient being needs to reach enlightenment? It's not possible Because he has no one to whom to develop love and compassion. Because only with Buddhas is not possible to reach enlightenment. You need also sentient beings. Okay, then I think in that case, Buddhas will manifest as sentient beings, and so the other one can develop love and compassion. But anyhow, that's not a problem that we have right now. Okay, this is just when we do debating sometimes, these things come. But the point is that we need to cultivate the gratitude towards sentient beings and the equanimity. With this, then we can go through the rest of bodhicitta. Okay? So we will conclude here for today. And tomorrow we will go to the next part, which means exchanging oneself with others and the practice of tonglen, of giving and taking. Jetsun lame kutse rapten chi namkar chinle chochur gepadang losan tempe dreme sasumgi drowe munse tatu ne gyurachi chanchuba semcho rimboche make panam ke gyurachi kepa nyampar me payang Kongne konto pelwar sho Nimo dele tsendele Nime kunyan delek shing Nintsen takto delek pe Koncho sumki jingi lo Koncho sumki ngodrup tsol Koncho sumki trashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.